We're gonna release our holiday seasonal menu. We're gonna release our cup. We're gonna release peppermint mochas and gingerbread lattes and those addictive cookies, the Christmas snowman cookie things. You're like, it feels like it's coming. And then after Thanksgiving hits, the floodgates open, right? After Thanksgiving has ran its course, I mean, the sights, the sounds, the smells, everything is telling you Christmas is coming. You go to the store and it's packed. There's actually shoppers that are out shopping. There's Christmas music in the background. You have the smell of evergreen candles or sugar cookie candles, and you're hearing the music playing on the radio and in the stores, and the houses are lit up in the middle of the dark night showing Christmas lights, and it's beautiful and it's amazing, and everything is saying Christmas is right around the corner. Christmas is coming. Well, in the same way, the Old Testament scriptures are filled with things that are tipping us off, that are cueing us in, that are pointing towards the coming of Jesus Christ. And so the word Advent means coming. And so when we celebrate Advent every year, we are celebrating and remembering that Jesus came to earth to save us. So I'm really excited about this year's Advent series. We're in the middle of the Gospel of Matthew in our normal preaching. We're taking a break, but I want to come back to the genealogy. And you might think, wait, that's the most boring part of the whole gospel. Why the genealogy? Well, in Jesus' genealogy, there are a bunch of different kings, but only 4 of the kings are good, right? And so we're going to zoom in on each of those kings. We'll look at their wins, their wounds, their faithfulness, their failures. We're going to see how each of these kings is actually pointing us towards a coming king, a better king, how they're pointing us towards Jesus Christ. And so today, we're going to look at a guy named King Asa, right? King Asa. And in doing so, I don't know about you, but when I get to the Christmas season, I can feel my tank emptying. I mean, like the calendar seems to be packed out. There's all these things we're supposed to be a part of, all this stuff happening. And oftentimes on the back end of Christmas, even though you had a few days off of work, you find yourself exhausted, a little worn out, like you're running on empty. And what if I told you that Asa's life teaches us how to approach Christmas and to find rest? Would you want to learn that lesson? If we could come to Christmas and end not with exhaustion, but with rest, would you want it? Right? So 2 Chronicles chapter 14, we're going to pick up in verse 1. It says, Abijah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa, his son, reigned in his place in the days the land had rest for 10 years. And Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. All right, and so as we look at chapter 14, let me give you a quick history lesson. All right, so geek out with me for a second, but let me catch you up with where we are in the life of Israel. So Israel is a nation. How did it become a nation? It goes all the way back to 3 patriarchs: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Abraham had 2 sons, Ishmael, Isaac. God works through Isaac. Isaac has 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. God works through Jacob. Jacob has 12 sons. These sons become the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. They're asking God for a king to lead them, and so God gives them a king, and there is one king, right, who begins to lead them, and they're all united. There's actually 3 kings who unite all 12 tribes. So 3 kings unite all of them. King Saul, he's the first one. King David, the dude who killed Goliath, is the second one. And the third one is Solomon, David's son, one of the wealthiest and wisest people to ever walk the earth. And so under Solomon, all 12 tribes are united. But after he dies, that kingdom splits into a north and a south. Right? So in the north is what's known as Israel. This is 10 tribes. In the north, Israel. In the south is Judah. That's 2 tribes, right? So 10 in the north, 2 in the south. Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Now, if you're reading through the Old Testament and you get to 1st and 2nd Kings or 1st and 2nd Chronicles, you're going to learn about all these kings. So the 10 tribes in the north had a bunch of kings. Everyone was bad. Every one of those kings led God's people's hearts further and further away from him. But in the south, in Judah, there were bad kings, but also some good kings. When we get to Asa, he's the 3rd king in Judah, and he's the first good king, right? He's the first good one. So when he steps onto the scene, he steps into a spiritual wasteland, right? He steps into a place where people are pursuing idols like they were on sale for Black Friday. Like people are worshiping Asherah poles, they're worshiping Baal, they're worshiping all these different things. And he comes in and it tells us that he was good, right? Which is the Bible's equivalent of giving him a gold star. They're like, all right, Asa, gold star. You're doing well here. So Asa is doing good. He gets his gold star. But look at verses 3-5. It says, he took away the foreign altars and the high places and broke down the pillars and cut down the Asherim and commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, and to keep the law and the commandment. He also took out the cities of Judah, the high places and the incense altars, and the kingdom had rest under him, right? So imagine having a pressure washer. You go to your sidewalk and you're thinking, I'm just gonna clean my sidewalk today. And as you're doing that, you're feeling very satisfied. And you go, what else can I clean? So you hit the driveway and you're thinking, what else can I clean? And you look at your dog. You think about it, right? Like, could it clean him too? Maybe, but you don't. That'd be cruel. So what King Asa is doing is he's becoming a spiritual pressure washer for his nation. Right? He's coming. He's like, boom, remove this. Boom, remove that. We're going to take away anything and everything that is hindering our ability to seek God with all of our hearts and to keep his commandment. If it's in the way, we're going to take it out, right? And then as a result, it tells us that the people experienced rest, right? The people experienced rest. But after a few years, this is going to be put to the test. So jump down to verse 9, all right? It says, Zerah, the Ethiopian, came out against them with an army of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots and came as far as Mareshah. And Asa went out to meet him. They drew up their lines of battle in the valley of Zephath at Mareshah. Right? And so here's what's happening. He's doing well. They're experiencing rest. And this is put to the test as they face 1,000,000-man army. That's more men than there are dollar generals in Appalachia. That's a lot of men. It's not looking good. And so as Asa faces this, he's got a couple of decisions, right? One is he can just go into panic mode, right? Like a person who responds all to a company email when they meant to only send it to one person. It's like, I didn't mean to do that, right? Like he could panic, or he could phone a friend. He could call another king who maybe has a bigger army or an army that can complement him. He can phone a friend. And so what's he going to do as he faces this 1,000,000-man army? Well, look at verse 11. It says, and Asa cried out to the Lord his God. Now, I don't know if you are a Bible underliner, but I would underline this prayer because it's incredible. He cries out to God and he says this, "Oh Lord, there is none like you to help. Between the mighty and the weak, help us, O Lord our God, for we rely on you. And in your name we have come against this multitude. O Lord, you are our God. Let man not prevail against you." All right, so he lays out this beautiful prayer. It's not him showing strategic genius. It's him showing prayerful dependence. And then in verse 12, it says this, so the Lord defeated the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. So God answers his prayer, he gives him victory, and all these dudes scatter like dust in the wind. And so as you're reading this, I don't know about you, but I couldn't find myself thinking, how do I respond under pressure? Right? When I find pressure, do I go to my tactics first and foremost, or do I turn to the Lord and show trust in him? Look, I'm not anti-strategies. I'm not anti-planning sessions, anti-best practices, anti-learning from other people. But here's what I know. An unimpressive plan blessed by the Lord is better than an impressive plan that doesn't have him in it. Right? And so what we see in the first part of his life and ministry is he is showing beyond his hope in his tactics or in his strength, his hope and trust in the Lord. Like he is a man who is turning and seeking after God's heart in all things. So things are going good. Then look at chapter 15. It says, the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Oded. And he went out to meet Asa and said to him, hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. right? So the Holy Spirit comes over this guy named Azariah, and he gives Asa like a prophetic pep talk, right? He talks to him and calls him to courage and faithfulness in fulfilling his role as the king. And then here's how Asa responds. I don't know about you, but have you ever met a college student who just came back from Passion, right? So Passion is this conference put on by Louis Giglio. It started in 1997. It's been going on since then. Last year, 55,000 college students went down to Passion. And when they go there's these speakers and worship teams that are encouraging college students to faithfulness in Christ, and students then disperse from Atlanta and Dallas and go back to their churches across the country, and they're just lit on spiritual fire, ready to do the work of the Lord, right? And so when you think about a spiritual moment like that, like a Passion conference, that's what happens after Azariah gives this prophetic pep talk. He calls them to courage. He calls them to faithfulness. And then in response, King Asa is like, yes, right? Like, let's recommit ourselves to God. Let's remove all the idols, all the things that are hindering us to him. Let's come back and be people of prayer. And so he calls them to revival like a man lit on spiritual fire, and the people respond with revival. And what I love about this moment is if you read through chapter 15, what you will see is this is not just lip service, right? Like they turn from the things that are holding them back from God, and they take action. Right? They realize that revival requires our commitment to do the hard things, to the point that King Asa looks at his mom, and his mom is actually hindering the work that God wants to do. And so he removes her from her position, but they are all in on being a part of what God is doing. And so as you look at chapter 15, what you're seeing is God is moving in the lives of the people. Then look at verse 15 of chapter 15. Verse 15 says this: after they recommit themselves to the Lord, it says, and all Judah rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart and had sought him with their whole desire. And he, as in God, was found by them, and the Lord gave them rest all around. Right? And so chapter 14, chapter 15, Asa's story is 3 chapters deep. So 2/3 of the way through, as far as the writing goes, he is doing great, right? He's doing well. But rest and comfort have a way of causing us to forget our dependence on God. Right? And so what's going to happen? Well, look at chapter 16. It says, in the 36th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might permit no one to go out or come in to Asa, king of Judah. Right? And so we're 36 years into his reign. King Baasha, his story, like I said, 1st and 2nd Kings covers all these dudes. Baasha assassinates his predecessor. Like, he's like, I don't like you, I'm gonna become king. Kills that dude. After he takes over the northern 10 tribes of Israel, he looks south to Judah and says, you know what, I think I'm gonna take them back as well. And so he goes and strategically posts up in this place called Ramah, which is about 5 miles north of Jerusalem. It's a strategic place that controls the flow in and out of the city. And he basically goes, I'm gonna cut them off. Like, I'm gonna wait them out. I'm gonna cause them to submit to me, right? And so as we see this, now we're asking the question, as he's faced with another test, how will he respond? How will Asa respond? Look at verses 2 and 3. Then Asa took silver and gold from the treasures of the house of the Lord and the king's house and sent them to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, who lived in Damascus, saying, there is a covenant between me and you, as there was between my father and your father. Behold, I'm sending to you silver and gold. Go break your covenant with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may withdraw from me. All right, and so as we see in this chapter, verse 16, right, that the last kingdom was way bigger, right? The Ethiopian kingdom had 1 million men. Right? This is a smaller kingdom, and with the bigger kingdom, he went to God, but now his decision, it seems more logical. It seems more diplomatic. It seems more wise, right? But he doesn't seek God. Instead, he runs to another king with a bigger army and asks for his help. I think about, we're in the middle of football season, so if you don't like football, I'm sorry. But like, you have quarterbacks, okay? In the NFL, a lot of these quarterbacks are making anywhere from $40 to $60 million a year. right? But every one of these quarterbacks, no matter how well they are paid, are fully dependent on their offensive line. Some people call them the big uglies, right? So the big dudes up front, there are 5 of those guys. The average offensive lineman makes $3 to $5 million a year, right? So all 5 of those dudes combined make less than half of the dude they're protecting, right? But the dude they're protecting is fully dependent on them going to work on his behalf. So you know what quarterbacks do in the offseason? They take care of their big uglies, right? They take care of those dudes. Like Patrick Mahomes, he buys his dude Rolex watches, all right? Jalen Hurts, he's like, I'm going to buy my dude some decked out golf carts on 20-inch rims that spin. He's like, you guys get a golf cart, you get a golf cart. Brock Purdy from the 49ers bought his whole crew trucks. He's like, you get a new truck today. Like, I'm just going to take care of you because they know I need these dudes for me to be who I want to be, right? But the minute a quarterback forgets how dependent he is on his offensive line, things go bad for his career. If they choose not to block and to let someone through, it becomes bad, right? And so when you think about King Asa and see what he's doing here, what we see is that a faith that once made him bold becomes a faith he assumes he no longer needs. What's happening here is Asa's heart is drifting from dependence on God to self-sufficiency in what he brings to the table. Look at verses 7 and 9. At that time, Hanani, the seer, came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped you. Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen, yet because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless towards him. You have done foolishly in this, for from now on you will have wars. And so what Hanani says is, look, if you would have leaned into God like you did before, you would have defeated Israel. You would have defeated Syria. Like, you could have defeated any of these dudes. But instead, you leaned on your own strength. You looked to someone else. Then in verse 9, he basically, in a very poetic way, says God's looking for people who would trust him more than themselves. So instead of Asa hearing this and repenting, instead of him hearing this and saying, I need to come back to what I used to do. I need to come back to the Lord. He is my strength. He is my anchor. He is my hope. He gets mad. He throws Hanani into prison. He starts to oppress his people, and he starts to look anywhere but God. All right? And so then look at verse 12. It says, in the 39th year of the reign, Asa, in the year of his reign, Asa was diseased in his feet, and this disease became severe. Yet even in his disease, he did not seek the Lord, but sought help from physicians. So he reigns for 41 years. We're towards the end of this. He gets some type of foot disease. Some people speculate maybe this is divine punishment. Maybe this is God punishing him for rejecting the word of Hanani. I don't know. Like the scriptures don't seem to be primarily concerned with what caused the foot disease, but how he responds. Even in this moment, his response isn't to come to God and say, God, can you help? It's to go to human healers and say, what can you do? Now, don't hear this wrong. Scripture is not anti-doctors. It's not like, don't go to the doctor, just pray it away. Like, no, if you're sick, go to the doctor. That's a good thing to do. The thing he's addressing here is his posture. That his posture is to hope more in man and what man can do than God and what God can do. And so at the verse 13, it says, and then Asa slept with his fathers, dying in the 41st. That's it. It's like, and he died. And that's how it ends. So 35 years, things are going great. I mean, 2 of the 3 chapters written about him are great, but how does his life end? Right? It ends on a down note. And so you might be asking the question, like, Jeff, why is this in the Christmas story? Like, why did Asa make the cut for a Christmas series? I mean, he starts in prayer but ends with pride, right? He was a king that once tore down idols, and now he ends his life with building a huge idol in his own heart. At first, he trusts God and seeks God, and now he's trusting and seeking anything but God. Like, why does he make this story? And that's the point, right? The point is, even the best of us fall short of what we need most, right? And so this serves as a sign that's pointing us to something better. Asa is a signpost pointing us to something better. So imagine you're driving on the road on a road trip, and you're sitting there and you're going like, I kind of got to pee. And so then you look at your gas tank, like how am I doing? I could fill up. And as you're thinking that, you're going, and I'm a little hungry, right? So at this moment, you could pull over to a rest area, stop one. You go to the next exit, pull over, go to a gas station, fill up, then jump across the street to Chick-fil-A to get some food. And that's 3 stops, not efficient at all. But what say you see a sign that says Buc-ee's? Exit 407. You're like, okay, like that's a one-stop shop. I can fill up my tank with gas. I can go to the bathroom without needing a hazmat suit, right? And I can get some food, something with brisket in it. And if time permits, I might even take a picture with the mascot. Like this is gonna be a good day. But if you continue to drive past that exit, it does you no good, right? Because the sign can point, but it can't provide. You have to follow where the sign is leading. Okay, so Asa is a signpost that is pointing us to Jesus, all right? Because Jesus is the perfect, faithful king. Where Asa faltered, Jesus remained steadfast. Jesus never wavered in his dependence on the Father, all right? Where Asa hardened his heart with pride, Jesus humbled himself to death, even death on the cross. And where Asa had this ability to help God's people at least taste rest for a season, Jesus is the one who fully satisfies. You see, Asa's life points, but only Jesus can provide, right? And so we're looking to Jesus for what we're longing for most. And so as I look at this, I see that Asa's story, Asa's life, it surfaces this felt need we have for rest, right? Asa's life surfaces this felt need we have for rest. And what we learn, if you look at it, like how do they experience rest? They need rest, how do they get it? What we learn from his story is that rest is the result of spiritual renewal, right? Rest is the result of spiritual renewal. And so for us, what we need to learn is that we need rhythms of spiritual renewal. Like when we have rhythms in our day through something like a quiet time, when we have rhythms in our week through gathering to worship with God's people, when we have rhythms in our season of spiritual renewal, that enables us to experience the felt need of rest that we all have, right? And so what I love about Christmas is a pre-programmed rhythm for spiritual renewal, which means if you do Christmas right, if you do Christmas right, you will finish the Christmas season feeling rested, recharged, and ready for what's next. But if you do Christmas wrong, you're like, wait, can you do Christmas wrong? Yes. If you do Christmas wrong, it will result in you being more exhausted than you are today. Right? And so how do we do it right? Like how do we approach Christmas in a way that it leads to rest and not exhaustion? Because I don't know about you, but if I'm looking at the amount of Christmases I've been a part of, I've probably done it wrong more than I've done it right, because most of the time I'm going, I would kind of like another vacation this January, right? Like because you even though you gave me a couple days off, I'm exhausted. So what does that look like? Well, think about this. 30 plus years of King Asa's life, he was faithful. But then it ends on a down note. Asa's faithfulness did not die in an explosion. It died from a slow leak. So if you think about, the way that some people get gas leaks in their house and it ends badly, right? It's not a one-time, boom, you're done. It's a slow process. And so as gas is leaking into a house, I was reading up on this. Apparently it begins with something like a headache. Then it causes you to become fatigued, and then you start to get dizzy, and then before you know it, it's too late. All right, and so I guess the question I have for us is, if you were to evaluate your spiritual life right now, if you were to evaluate, like, hey, how are you doing in your walk with Christ? Are any of you experiencing a slow leak? I mean, like, are you as faithful today as you were in the past? Or are you experiencing a little bit of spiritual fatigue? A little bit of spiritual dizziness? Do you feel like, hey, just something's not right? Okay? If that's you, right, look at what Asa's life teaches us. That we need spiritual renewal. So we need to come back to God in prayerful dependence. And so what I want to challenge you with this Christmas season for the next 4 weeks is first, posture yourself in prayerful dependence. Because how many of us are going to get through Christmas in our own strength, right? How many of you are looking what the next few weeks look like and you're going, we can make it, right? Versus saying, God, I need you today. Like, I need you to get through work today. I need you to help be the dad or mom that you've called me to be today. God, I need you to help me in this conversation with a family member that's kind of awkward. Like, God, what would it look like for you to say, okay, God, this Christmas season, I'm going to posture myself daily in prayerful dependence. And then think about, like, where's your commitment level right now? Right? Is Christmas, like, it's the Christmas season, but you're just trying to fit some Christmas things into the calendar? What would it look like if you said, like, no, God, like, I want to commit myself to you? That looking towards Christ this season is my first priority. Like, you're my greatest commitment. And then what would it look like for you to say, okay, like, I can't just give God lip service. I need to take action. So are there some things that you're saying, hey, this is a barrier between what God wants to do in my heart. I need to push that to the side so that I can have my focus here. Because here's the deal. If you will commit this Christmas to learn from King Asa, to posture yourself in prayerful dependence, to recommit your heart to pursuing God and seeking him, to follow him, and to remove the things that stand in the way, you will experience spiritual renewal and you will find the rest that your heart longs for. God, thank you for your word. God, thank you for King Asa and the lessons that we can learn. And so, God, we don't want to just start our spiritual journey with you on the right foot. We want to end it there too. So God, for those of us that are drifting, would you pull our hearts back? For those of us that are trying to pull ourselves up and in our strength to make it through December, God, would you help us to lean into your strength, trusting you above all else? God, for those of us who are wavering in our commitment, where other things are taking greater priority, God, would you help us to say, God, you're my greatest priority. My greatest commitment is to you. And God, if there's anything you need to reveal to us, that you need to surface in our own hearts that we need to remove or to reprioritize or to push to the side to make sure that our focus is on Christ and Christ alone, God, would you give us the power and the strength to do so? But God, would you bring spiritual renewal over your people? Would you bring spiritual renewal over this church so that we can be rested and recharged